The February evening of 2015 was unremarkable, just like 1,000 other evenings. Sarah Mitchell sat in her small apartment in Newcastle, scrolling through her Facebook feed while sipping a cup of tea. The weather outside was typical for the English North Sea coast, cold, grey and unwelcoming. The heater whirred quietly, and the muffled sound of traffic seeped through the double-glazed window pane. Sarah was 29 years old and worked in the human resources department of a mid-sized company downtown. Her life was structured, pleasant, predictable. She was satisfied with her position, had a stable circle of friends, and maintained close relationships with her parents and siblings. Nothing indicated that a simple notification on her smartphone would mark the beginning of a story that would change everything. A story that would end in unimaginable suffering. The request came from a profile named Rajesh Malhotra. The profile picture showed an attractive man in a green military uniform, looking confidently and directly at the camera. His features were striking. His smile seemed genuine and trustworthy. According to his profile information, he was 27 years old and worked as a soldier in the British Army. His timeline was full of pictures of comradeship, photos from overseas deployments, and occasional philosophical quotes about honor, loyalty, and perseverance. Sarah had no known connection to this man. They didn't know each other from school, from work, or from any sporting or cultural activity. This alone made the request interesting. She briefly considered rejecting it, a standard precaution many women took back then with unknown contacts. But then she read the message he had sent along. He wrote that he had found her through mutual friends. He had stumbled upon a photo of her taken in Scotland, a picture where she was laughing in front of a picturesque mountain landscape. He said he found the photo beautiful and simply wanted to get to know her. The message was politely phrased, not pushy, not too personal. It seemed sincere. Sarah shrugged and accepted the request. She had no idea that this single decision, this one thoughtless gesture with her finger on the computer mouse, would set in motion a process that could no longer be stopped. The first message Rajesh sent her was just as polite and thoughtful as the request itself. He introduced himself, told her a little about himself, that his parents had emigrated from India to Great Britain, that he had grown up between two cultures, that his military career meant a lot to him. He asked about her life, her work, her interests. He seemed not just polite, but genuinely interested. He asked questions that went beyond superficial small talk. He wanted to know what motivated her, what made her happy, what dreams she had. Sarah replied, initially out of pure politeness, then with growing interest. It was refreshing to write to someone who didn't just offer superficial compliments, but showed genuine curiosity. Within a few weeks, the occasional Facebook messages turned into daily conversations. Rajesh, or simply Raj as he called himself, wrote to her in the morning when he woke up, and late at night before he went to sleep. He shared small moments of his day with her, a photo of breakfast, a funny anecdote from the military base, a philosophical thought that had crossed his mind. Sarah found herself reading his messages with special attention. She waited for his messages. She thought about what she could reply to make it sound witty, intelligent, or at least interesting. This digital communication became the highlight of her day. At work, she secretly checked her phone when her supervisors weren't looking. In the evenings, she stayed up later than she should have, just to chat with Raj a little longer. The communication wasn't exclusively superficial. Raj shared deeper thoughts with her. He talked about his relationship with his parents, that his mother was controlling, that his father seemed emotionally distant. He described how these family dynamics had shaped his trust in relationships. He opened up in a way that Sarah initially perceived as a sign of authenticity and emotional maturity. A man who could express his feelings was something special in her eyes, something she had missed in previous relationships. In return, Sarah shared her own story with him, She told him about her childhood in a small village in Northumberland, about her love for music, about her dreams of mastering her career in human resources, perhaps one day moving up to management. She told him about her family, her best friend Emma, about her hobbies and passions. With every detail she shared, the emotional connection to this virtual stranger felt stronger. In March 2015, Raj suggested they meet in person. The suggestion came after about 2 months of intense digital communication. Sarah was nervous when she agreed to the invitation. There was always a certain risk in meeting someone you only knew from the internet, but at the same time, it felt right. They had shared so much, revealed so much about themselves, that it seemed surreal not to know each other in person. They arranged to meet on a Saturday afternoon in Newcastle, in a cozy cafe downtown, not far from her apartment. Sarah deliberately chose a public place, an unconscious precaution. She told her best friend Emma where she was going and with whom. She trusted her instincts, but she wasn't reckless. When Sarah entered the cafe, Raj was already there. He was sitting at a table next to the window, a coffee in front of him, looking out at the rain-slicked street. When he noticed her, he immediately stood up and smiled. It was the same smile she knew from his Facebook photos, but in person it seemed somehow more intense, more direct. He hugged her warmly, perhaps a little too warmly, and pulled out her chair before she sat down, an old-fashioned gesture that touched her. The first few minutes were marked by slight shyness. It was strange to meet someone face-to-face for the first time after spending so much time talking online, but they quickly fell back into the familiar rhythm of their digital conversations. Raj was attentive, polite, and engaged. He listened actively to Sarah, not just hearing, but truly listening. Eye contact, no phone, full concentration. He laughed at her jokes, asked profound questions, and shared anecdotes from his life that made her laugh. After coffee, he suggested a walk. They strolled through the streets of Newcastle, talking about art, politics, their life goals and dreams. The hours flew by. As evening fell and the streetlights began to flicker, Raj walked Sarah to the bus stop. They stood facing each other, a little undecided about how to end this memorable afternoon. Raj leaned forward and hugged her gently, a long, intense moment that felt like a promise to Sarah. "I'd like to see you again," he said softly. Sarah smiled. "Me too," she replied. At this point, Sarah couldn't know that this evening would be the turning point of her life. She couldn't know that the charming, attentive, and emotional man she had just met would turn the coming months into a nightmare. She couldn't guess that this man, this charming soldier with the vulnerable smile, was already deeply entangled in patterns that led to destruction. The first night after Sarah got home, she couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, thinking about Raj, his eyes, his laugh, the way he had looked at her. She felt alive, loved and seen, just like in those romantic movies she had watched as a teenager. She couldn't know that she had just reached a point of no return. Shall I continue with the second chapter? I have completed the first chapter and am awaiting your confirmation. In the following weeks, Sarah and Raj saw each other regularly. He commuted between his military base in Edinburgh and Newcastle, and whenever he had free time, he drove to her. They ate out together at small Italian restaurants, attended concerts by local artists, and spent long weekends hiking in the Northumberland hills. For Sarah, everything felt like a romance from a movie, intense, passionate, exciting in a way she had never experienced before. Raj was romantic in an old-fashioned way that seemed to come from another era. He brought her flowers, handwritten letters that he slipped into her apartment mailbox. He planned surprises, a picnic in a secluded spot, tickets to a theatre she had mentioned. He called her my beauty, my darling, showered her with compliments. He paid attention to the smallest details. He remembered that she liked coffee with a very specific brand, that she had a particular favorite author, that she was afraid of heights but loved mountain hikes. Her friends, especially her best friend Emma, immediately noticed the change. Sarah seemed happier, more vibrant, as if a switch had been flipped inside her. She constantly talked about Raj, showed photos of their outings, raved about his attention and care. "He's different," she told Emma. "He treats me like I'm the most important person in the world." Emma was happy for Sarah, but there was something in her, an undefined feeling she couldn't quite describe. Maybe it was too fast. Everything seemed to be developing too quickly. Just 3 months after their first meeting, Raj gave Sarah a key to his apartment in Edinburgh. "I want you to feel at home," he said, placing a silver key in her hand. "I want you to always have a place where you are welcome." Sarah was touched. The key symbolized trust, commitment, a promise of a future together. She began spending weekends at his place. She met his army friends, young men in their 20s and 30s who seemed to like Raj. She became part of his life in Edinburgh, learned his routines, his favorite pub, the park where he liked to run. But precisely in this phase, while Sarah felt increasingly secure, increasingly invested in the relationship, the first subtle cracks in the perfect facade began to appear. They were subtle, easy to overlook, easy to interpret as something else. It started with questions. Raj increasingly asked who Sarah was spending her time with when they weren't together. The questions were harmless at first. "Who were you with at lunchtime today? Was it that colleague you mentioned?" Then they became more specific. "Who was that guy in the photo your friend uploaded on Instagram, the man next to you? Who is that?" Initially, Sarah took these questions as a sign of his deep affection. He was just intensely interested in her life. That was loving, not controlling. But the questions became more frequent, more urgent. If Sarah didn't reply immediately, one message after another would follow. "Are you mad at me? Why aren't you answering? Are you with someone else?" Sarah tried to reassure Raj. She explained that she was busy at work, that she had friends she met up with, that she also needed time for herself. Each time, Raj apologized profusely. "I'm so sorry, darling. I just worry about you. I'm afraid of losing you. It would destroy me if you left me." His apologies were so sincere, his explanations so emotional, that Sarah forgave him. She attributed his behavior to his difficult childhood. He had told her that his parents had a complicated marriage, that as a child he had often witnessed arguments and emotional coldness. This lack of emotional security in his past perhaps explained his neediness now. Maybe he just needed reassurance and confirmation that he was loved. Maybe he just needed time to learn to trust Sarah. In June, the situation truly escalated for the first time. Sarah had been invited to a colleague's birthday party. She had told Raj she would be home late. The evening was nice. Music, laughter, dancing at a club downtown. Sarah enjoyed the company of her colleagues. She felt free and alive. Around midnight she checked her phone. 52 missed calls, 78 messages. Her hands began to tremble as she scrolled through them. The first ones were concerned. "Are you okay? Why aren't you answering?" Then they became accusatory. "You're deliberately ignoring me. I see you're online. Who are you texting?" The last messages were desperate, almost hysterical. "Please, Emma, talk to me. I can't take this. Please, please answer me." Sarah was shocked. She called Raj immediately. He answered on the first ring, his voice cracking as he spoke. "Where were you? I thought something had happened to you. I thought you were with another man. How could you do this to me?" Sarah spent the next hour calming Raj down, assuring him she loved him, that she had just been spending time with colleagues. Finally, he calmed down, apologized again, and promised it wouldn't happen again. "I just love you so much," he said. "The thought that I could lose you drives me crazy." Sarah told her friend Emma about the incident the next day. Emma's reaction was sharp and immediately critical. "That's not normal, Sarah. 52 calls. That's controlling, that's a red flag. But Sarah defended Raj. He had a tough day, he's just worried. It's a sign of how much he loves me. Emma shook her head but said no more. She didn't want to pressure her friend, but she couldn't hide her concern. What Sarah didn't know, or perhaps repressed, was that this moment, this first uncontrolled outburst, marked a pattern that would repeat itself over and over in the coming months. The control would not lessen, it would grow. Shall I continue with the third chapter? July 2015 marked a turning point in Sarah and Raj's relationship. What had begun as a romantic love story slowly but steadily transformed into something disturbing. The controlling calls, which Sarah had initially interpreted as a sign of Raj's deep affection, became a daily burden, the new normal of her existence. Raj no longer called her just twice a day. It was now 6, sometimes 8 calls. In the morning before she went to work, at noon during her break, in the afternoon when she was in the office, in the evening when she came home, and then again late at night before she went to sleep. Each time he wanted to know, where are you right now? Who are you talking to? What are you doing at this very moment? The questions were always the same, but the tone was different. Sometimes tender, sometimes demanding, sometimes accusatory. Sarah initially tried to remain patient. She answered his questions conscientiously, assured him of her love, explained her daily routines in the smallest detail. She thought that if she just gave him enough transparency, if she could just show him that she wasn't doing anything wrong, he would calm down. But the more she gave him, the more he seemed to need. It was like an endless chasm. The more you threw into it, the deeper it got. It was impossible to ever fill this void. If Sarah didn't answer the phone immediately, if she was busy or simply missed the call, messages were already waiting for her. Why are you ignoring me? Are you with another man? I know you're lying. Please, tell me the truth. These messages came in rapid succession, one after another, a bombardment of suspicions and questions that kept Sarah in a constant state of justification. At work, Sarah's colleagues began to notice that something was wrong. They saw Sarah constantly checking her phone, talking on the phone outside during her lunch break, sometimes with tears in her eyes. A colleague named Daniel once tried to approach her in the cafeteria. "Sarah, are you okay? You seem a bit stressed lately." Sarah flinched, blushed, and assured him that everything was fine. She was ashamed to admit what was really going on. Her supervisor, a woman named Miss Patterson, spoke to her directly one afternoon. "Sarah, can I talk to you for a moment?" She closed the office door behind them. "I've noticed you seem very tense lately. Your work is still excellent, but I'm worried about you. Is everything all right?" Sarah forced a smile and assured her that everything was fine. How could she explain what was happening without seeming weak or foolish? Later in the month, Raj developed a new obsession: Sarah's social media. He began constantly monitoring her Instagram and Facebook. If she posted a photo, he demanded to know when and where it had been taken, who was behind the camera, who else was present. If a male colleague commented on one of her posts, Raj flew into a rage. She posted a harmless photo of herself on her lunch break, and Daniel, a married accounting colleague with 2 children, wrote a short, polite comment. "Looks like a nice day." Raj immediately wrote to Sarah, "Who is Daniel? Why is he complimenting you? What's going on between you two?" Sarah then had to explain in detail that Daniel was from accounting, was married, and had 2 children. But Raj didn't believe her. He insisted that she block Daniel on all social media platforms. First Instagram, then Facebook, then LinkedIn. Sarah didn't want to, but she also didn't want to provoke another crisis. She did as he demanded. During this time, Sarah also noticed that Raj increasingly disliked her spending time with her best friend, Emma. "I don't like her," he once said after Sarah mentioned they were going shopping. "She doesn't like me. She's trying to break us up. I can see it. She envies me your attention." Sarah defended Emma, but Raj repeated the accusation again and again, until Sarah started seeing Emma less, just to avoid arguments. The situation also became complicated with her work colleagues. Raj didn't like Sarah spending her lunch break with them. "You don't need other friends," he said. "You have me. Why do you need other people?" It was a question Sarah couldn't properly answer. The logical reply, that people needed different types of relationships, that friendships met different needs, only led to even more intense arguments. Even her family became a subject of Raj's control. He didn't like Sarah visiting her parents. "Your mother speaks ill of me," he said. "I can feel it. She thinks I'm not good enough for you. Your father looks at me like he hates me." Sarah assured him that wasn't true, but Raj remained stubborn. This criticism of her family led Sarah to cancel visits more often. Slowly but surely, Raj was isolating Sarah from her social environment. Not through direct commands, it was more subtle than that. It was through constant criticism, accusations, creating emotional crises that Sarah could only soothe by reducing contact with the people in question. It was a psychological game, very cleverly played. Sarah began to filter her decisions entirely through Raj's reactions. Should she go shopping after work? Then she had to ask Raj beforehand. Did she want to visit her sister on the weekend? Raj would argue against it, would say he felt alone and unimportant. Was she planning to go to the hairdresser? Then Raj would ask why she wanted to look nice and for whom. These questions were never neutral. They were full of accusations, full of unspoken charges. It was like a form of house arrest, only there were no bars and no walls. The prison walls were emotional, invisible, but no less real. Sarah felt trapped, as if every decision had to pass through Raj's mental filter before she could make it. She found herself filtering her thoughts, limiting her actions, always careful not to displease him. In September, Sarah experienced a new moment of shock. Raj showed up at her place completely inappropriately, in the middle of the week, without warning. Sarah came home from work and found him standing on the step in front of her apartment door. She was startled. "Raj, what are you doing here? I thought you were at the military base in Edinburgh." His face had a strange expression, not exactly a smile, but not entirely neutral either. "I wanted to surprise you," he said. "I got an early release." He hugged her, but the hug wasn't tender. It was possessive, intense. During the evening, it quickly became clear that this was no romantic surprise. Raj interrogated her about her week. He wanted to know why she hadn't answered the phone on Tuesday, why she had come home an hour later than usual on Wednesday. "I had a meeting," Sarah explained. "I told you there would be an important meeting with management." Raj shook his head. "You said the meeting was at 5 p.m., but you only got home at 7 p.m. Where were you, really?" Sarah was stunned. He had checked her timing, tracked her movements. She didn't understand how he had done it, but in that moment she felt a new level of fear. "The meeting lasted longer," she said, "and then there was traffic. That's all, Raj." But he didn't believe her. He demanded that she give him her phone so he could read her messages, check her call history. Sarah wanted to protest. It was her privacy, but she was afraid of what would happen if she refused. She gave him the phone. These unannounced visits became a habit. Sometimes Raj came in the middle of the week, sometimes on the weekend. He showed up at her workplace, ostensibly just to say hello, as he claimed. But if Sarah was busy, if she was in a conversation with colleagues, he became impatient, sometimes even hostile. Shall I continue with the 4th chapter? By the end of September, Sarah had reached a point where she no longer knew where the love ended and the captivity began. She still loved Raj, or at least she loved the idea of him, the man she thought she knew before everything started. But that person no longer existed. Or perhaps he had never existed. Maybe everything had been a carefully constructed illusion, and Sarah had simply been too blinded to see it. The situation had developed to this point. Raj now demanded that Sarah send him her schedule for the next day every evening. "I just want to know where you are, for your safety," he said. Sarah felt like a prisoner who had to report to her warden. Her days looked like a detailed list. 7 a.m., wake up, shower, eat breakfast. 8 a.m., drive to work. 9 a.m., 5 p.m., work at the office. 5:30 p.m., drive home. 7 p.m., prepare and eat dinner. 9 p.m., ready for his call. If Sarah deviated from this plan by even 15 minutes, if, for example, she arrived home 5 minutes late due to traffic, Raj's messages would explode. "You should be home by 5:30 p.m. It's 5:35 p.m. now. Where are you?" Then Sarah had to explain traffic jams, a delayed meeting, or a quick stop at the supermarket. Every explanation was questioned, every detail verified. "Which supermarket? Send me the receipt." It was absurd, both absurd and humiliating. Sarah should have rebelled. A part of her knew this wasn't normal, but another part, the part exhausted by months of manipulation, felt powerless. She was too tired to fight. In mid-October, Sarah experienced a new moment of shock. She had a colleague named Jennifer who worked in the same building. The two weren't close friends, but they liked each other and occasionally chatted during lunch break about everyday things, their weekend plans, favorite series, fashion. Jennifer was nice, straightforward, and Sarah enjoyed these superficial, uncomplicated conversations that had nothing to do with Raj. One day, Jennifer invited Sarah to her birthday party. "It's going to be quite wild," Jennifer laughed. "Saturday at 8 p.m. at my apartment. I hope you can come." Sarah accepted the invitation without much thought. It was just a party among colleagues, nothing big. She didn't think it could be a problem. But when she told Raj, his face darkened. "A party? With whom? Will there be men there?" The questions came quickly, and Sarah already felt the tension building. "Raj, it's just a birthday party. Of course, there will be men there. Jennifer's boyfriend, some colleagues, it's harmless." She tried to sound light-hearted, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "I don't allow it," Raj simply said. His voice was calm, but the words were a clear command. "You are not going to a party without me." Sarah felt a moment of rebellion. A moment when she wanted to stand up, raise her voice. "You don't allow me, Raj. You are not my father. I am an adult woman. I can make my own decisions." It was a weak attempt at rebellion, but an attempt nonetheless. The argument that followed was intense. Raj drove to Newcastle while Sarah was at work and waited for her outside her office. When she came out, he was standing there, his face full of suppressed rage. "We need to talk," he said. They went home, and the argument escalated. He threatened to come to Newcastle and sort things out himself. He argued that a man at the party might be interested in Sarah, that she was too naive, too trusting. "If you go to this party, I'm done with you," he said. "I can't bear the thought of you hanging out with other men, drinking alcohol, maybe even dancing. It breaks my heart." Sarah weakened. She couldn't bear the idea of hurting Raj. She loved him. They couldn't just give up after going through so much together. In the end, she gave in and cancelled with Jennifer. She had to invent an excuse, a family emergency, an illness, something. She was ashamed to invent another lie, but she had no strength left to fight. Sarah began to understand that her life was no longer her own. She had lost control over her own decisions. Raj was controlling not only her external activities, but also her inner thoughts, her emotions, her ability to trust herself. She doubted her own perception. Was she really as self-centered, as thoughtless, as Raj implied? Was it really wrong to spend time with friends? Emma, Sarah's best friend, noticed the change. She saw a woman who was losing herself, who was becoming increasingly tense, increasingly silent. At the end of October, Emma confronted Sarah directly. They were at Emma's apartment, one of the rare occasions Sarah dared to meet without Raj. "Sarah, you have to break up with him," Emma said. Her voice was gentle but firm. "This isn't normal. He's controlling every aspect of your life. You're not yourself anymore." Sarah knew Emma was right. She saw it herself. In recent months, she had stopped going out with friends, had given up hobbies, her love for music, the long walks on the beach, had distanced herself from her family. All to avoid Raj's jealousy, to prevent conflicts. But at what cost? She had become like a shadow of herself. "I know," Sarah said. "I know it's wrong, but I love him. I can't just leave." "Yes, you can," Emma said. "You have to. He will destroy you if you don't leave." On a cold night in early November, Sarah made a final decision. She would break up with Raj. This time, she wouldn't give in, no matter how much he begged or threatened. She called him when he wasn't visiting and told him clearly and directly, "Raj, it's over. I can't live like this anymore. Your jealousy, your control, your constant distrust, it's destroying me. I need space. I need time for myself. Please respect that." A long silence followed. Then, "You can't leave me." Yes, I can and I must," Sarah said. "After everything we've been through together," Raj said, his voice cracking. "I love you. I can't live without you." It sounded desperate, authentic. "If you leave me, I'll kill myself. I swear it. My life will have no meaning anymore." Sarah stood her ground, but it cost her everything she had. "I love you too, Raj, but that's not enough. Love shouldn't hurt like this. This isn't love." She hung up, then blocked his number. She blocked him on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. She had to make a clean break, or she would weaken again. For 2 days, there was silence. Sarah breathed a sigh of relief. Maybe Raj had accepted it. Maybe it was finally over. Maybe she could get her life back now. She was wrong.